the biggest problem for me was accountability. I didn't want to hold myself accountable. Probably the most afraid thing for me to do was look in the mirror. That's something I've avoided for all 24 years of my life. And this is the first time I've ever done that. And it hurts to find out that you're not what you want to be.
All right. Start with your name and a little bit about yourself.
My name is Robert Syrkes Jr. I am a 24-year-old photographer. I also make music and pretty much anything else you can do with a computer is something I enjoy. Currently, I am trying to figure out what that next step is for me, but technically, everything kind of resolves around a computer or a camera. So growing up, I was pretty much with my mom and the rest of my mom's side of the family. My father was a little bit in and out, whether that was legal or just him not being there. So I've had to teach myself a lot of things throughout my life, and that's kind of led me to the point where I am now, where I'm finding God on my own. I've also had to learn how to become a man, and also with that, how to treat others and the women around me in my life. And so right now, the walk that I'm in is very early, but I am turning my life over to Christ. He's in the driver's seat. I'm walking in his plan, and I'm learning every day what it's like to do that, the challenges of that, and focusing on what unwavering faith really is. Not just saying it, not just talking about it, but what it really means to put your faith in God. Growing up, whenever I had the opportunity to be around my dad's side of the family, my grandmother and one of my aunts specifically are very heavily involved in their churches. But growing up for me, that wasn't something that I was ever really interested in because it was a little bit more of like forcing. And I guess you would say that there was a little bit of a gap in the way that the relationships were to be forced into anything. And so I was a bit rebellious with it, trying to avoid it at any cost, basically. When you're a kid, it's hard to get talked into reading the Bible, and that's not something you want to do on your own. And so that was something that I didn't really seek. I didn't look for it. I didn't feed into it. But the moralities and the lessons that were learned definitely stood out and stuck with me. So there's always been that seed there for me. And growing older, there's a lot of different ways that came about, but I'd say something that always stood out to me is I always felt like when people want to talk about politics or they want to talk about America or this or that, I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem is we don't fear God. And so if I can come to that conclusion, there's something that I know that I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm just not holding myself to it. And so at a certain point, you have to step out and put your faith and put your own effort into it. In a relationship, that love can't go one way. It has to go two. And that includes your relationship with God. And so I had to put that love into it to be able to get something back from it. I don't want to make it sound like I'm someone that turned my life over to God and all of a sudden things got sunny and all of a sudden everything felt like this or that. With me turning my life over to Christ, the biggest thing that I've found is conviction. And in the way that I was living my life before, the biggest problem for me was accountability. I didn't want to hold myself accountable. Probably the most afraid thing for me to do was look in the mirror. That's something I've avoided for all 24 years of my life, and this is the first time I've ever done that. And it hurts to find out that you're not what you want to be. And so in doing that, I've had to resort to the word a lot, creating new habits for myself, removing toxic habits that I already had, really just trying to take everything in the forefront and realize the accountability that God's going to hold me to, and realizing that I need to achieve that myself. I don't need to wait for God to hold me accountable on my judgment day because I can start making those changes now. And all of this is in my control. I previously had a lot of anxiety on a day-to-day basis. something that I really struggled with was why. I wanted the answer to why for everything. I wanted to be able to be in control. I wanted to be able to have the understanding of whatever is going on around me and understand why those things are happening and what can I do to take myself out of it if that's what I feel is needed, or to just simply remain in control so that I know things are going to go my way. And the biggest thing I've learned in my faith is that I'm actually not in control at all. There is no part of this that I'm in control of. And if I'm going to try to get that, then I'm going to be fighting with myself for a very long time. Um, so a lot of the anxieties on a day-to-day basis have really calmed. Um, there is still, obviously, as a human being, there's still moments that you have to check yourself. But now I actually have something to turn to that's not toxic. I don't need to smoke, or I don't need to drink, or whatever else it may be. I don't need to do those things to be able to get through my day. And that's why I say there's been a lot of conviction as well. Because realizing the things that I was doing, not only am I turning my life around, but I'm also creating new answers to the things that happen in my life. And so it's like allowing my old self to be dead and walk in this new life. And that's been one of the most beautiful things that I have ever experienced, for sure. There's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of strength. There's a lot of comfort, and realizing that's Christ. That's knowing that God is walking with me. That's feeling Him in me on a day-to-day basis. Understanding that I am not alone, and it doesn't take others being around me to not be alone, but to understand that I'm doing everything that I'm doing with a purpose, and that purpose may not be mine. It may not be my plan, but the plan that He has for me is something that's 10 times greater than anything that I will ever imagine. And so putting my trust into that plan and finding out on a day-to-day basis, how do I serve Him in His plan? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that I can do. My name is Robert, and this is my story.